Good afternoon, everybody. Hope you're all well. Thank you for taking the time to join this webinar. My name is Nigel Canning. I'm the UK sales engineer for Sizewell in the South. My colleague Daniel Marsh is also on the webinar as well, helping out with questions and chat and anything else you might need some help with. And he's UK sales engineer in the North. I think you probably have come across him already. He joined at the beginning of the year and I joined about 3 months ago now. So we'll get on with our webinar today, which is all about the Nebula Network Management Platform, its features and benefits, and how it's a really nice rounded platform now for supporting Sizewell Nebula products. So here we go. So really what the Nebula is all about is managing your IT devices. So like networking, wireless, wired connectivity, and providing a solution to deploy and manage and support your customers' networks in the most efficient way possible. If you think about how you've traditionally done IT, there's always a lot of investment in people's time as well as the actual products themselves. But often after you've done the initial design, you need to purchase the equipment, purchase licenses, purchase maintenance contracts. You then need to arrange for somebody to install that equipment and configure it and so on and so forth. That often happens on site with quite an expensive network configuration engineer. That's very expensive. Then you also need to be able to monitor that equipment to provide support to your customers if it goes down and so on and so forth. Obviously, most people nowadays provide site-to-site connectivity so that you can actually access and support the equipment. So that solution needs working on as well. Then you need to build that monitoring platform, which is going to monitor the equipment via the site-to-site VPNs. You can either do that with open source products or various other SNMP network management based products, but that also requires investment. Obviously, with various servers, with cloud storage, so on and so forth, you've got to provide that service. You've got to provide those services and purchase them. That's an ongoing cost. And obviously things like supporting devices with firmware upgrades or complex configuration requirements, that's all very expensive and time consuming as well, especially if perhaps you are supporting multiple customers, multiple organizations with multiple sites. The other area that requires a lot of involvement is user and device management. So obviously you need to support a user database, have radius server access to such things, so on and so forth. But what we're trying to get across here, that all of these aspects of the traditional model requires quite a lot of investment. Now with Nebula, you still obviously have to purchase the equipment, you still have to install the equipment, but with very minimal configuration, if any. So you don't need to monitor the equipment with a platform that you develop. Nebula does that. You don't need to access the equipment because Nebula is managed from the cloud in a single panel of glass type management environment. Nebula provides the monitoring platform for you. Data storage isn't required because that's provided by the Nebula platform, which is hosted within Amazon AWS. Updates and settings and so on and so forth, that's also managed within Nebula, so you don't have to do that. User and device management is still required, but Nebula helps you with that as well. There's a user administration database within the Nebula itself, or we can authenticate against radius servers, against your own sort of Active Directory facilities. And also there is sophisticated captive portal user facilities as well, particularly useful in hospitality. And that is all provided by the Nebula platform. And that's what we're trying to get across, that all of those potentially hassled systems that you have to create is all provided by Nebula. The basic Nebula platform, which we'll come to in a minute, is free. I think that's an important point for us to get across. Now we'll get into some of the features. So literally, it's as simple as unboxing your products. You can either register the device within the Nebula Cloud by using the serial number and the MAC address, or we offer a much more simplified way of doing it via an app on your phone. Literally, the boxes and the products themselves have a barcode and a QRC code on it. You just scan them in within your app, specify the organization and the site that it's assigned to, and that is literally it. It's registered. Then when the device is finally installed on site, it connects to the internet, the device will be fully manageable from within Nebula. So it literally is minutes and it's up and running. So what we're trying to get across is it literally is a few clicks with the app or within the Nebula Portal, and the device is registered, and off you go. And this always makes me laugh in this chap here. I don't know what company he works for, we can just put his feet up, but obviously somewhat simplified. Obviously, what you can do now is that you don't need additional hardware or software to monitor devices and so on and so forth. The Nebula platform is all doing that. So within the Nebula environment, within the Nebula Management Portal, or from within the Nebula app, you can monitor and keep an eye on your system quite simply. So obviously that means because it's internet-based, wherever you might be, you can manage your customers' products. So there's two ways of doing it. The Nebula Control Center is the web-based GUI. So wherever you can get an internet connection, you can literally support all your customers. It's straightforward. We also offer an app, and the app can do the majority of the management as well. So if you want simple changes put through, like changing people's passwords, or checking that an access point is up, or an Ethernet port is up, so on and so forth, that's all easy to do from the app. So if you think about the level of support that you can offer your customers, it's very sophisticated and very involved, simply because of the centralized Nebula Cloud Management. So you can be a small to medium-sized business, but you can offer a level of support that really only much bigger companies can provide. It's worth bearing that in mind. So then we get on to some of the features that people find really beneficial. One of the things, obviously, in any kind of Wi-Fi environment, within hospitality or bars and restaurants, and even within sort of shared business environments like Regis, the shared office type environment, is obviously connectivity to your Wi-Fi network. So we have a lot of investment in captive portal technology. So you can have your own users, you can have guest users, you can have auto guest protection, as it says here. So basically each guest is isolated from the other, so there's no risk of viruses and so on and so forth. All of these features, which are only briefly touched on here, they are very sophisticated, and they really are ideal for hospitality and shared office spaces. So here obviously we've got an example of a large office space. Zeiss have done a lot of investment in Wi-Fi access points and Wi-Fi technology, and this also applies to the Nebula management side of it. So we also have features that support smart mesh. So if you have an issue wiring in additional access points, smart mesh also applies to Nebula. We have enterprise grade WPA2 security as standard, so your user database can authenticate against the network. Sophisticated roaming features, which have only really come into being in the last few years within Wi-Fi properly, are also supported by the access points and by the Nebula management. So you'll see those standards at the bottom under roaming. These are quite sophisticated solutions to help very dense environments. So once again, hospitality or educational shared offices, that's all fully supported at the hardware level and at the management level. So one of the things we wanted to get across is about the products, basically. From a point of view of switching, we provide intelligent PoE, as we call it. So basically, it's a consumption model. So this gives you the best usage of your PoE, your available PoE budget. We have network protection features. So we have access control lists, we have VLAN configurations, we have Ethernet-based port configuration, port authentication, 802.1x. Looping, guarding, protection, all those kind of things that you perhaps would expect within a sophisticated switch. They're also available under Nebula and the Nebula switch families. One of the other really nice things, a subtle thing about centralized management, is we can offer what we call virtual switch stack configuration. So you can group switches together within the management portal and act on that switch configuration as though they were one switch. That makes things very, very efficient for making changes. Some of the things that we touched on right at the very beginning, one of the very involved and time-consuming aspects of any kind of network operation is doing firmware upgrades and configuration changes. Normally, perhaps you'd have to go to site. Obviously, there's a large half day or a daily cost associated with that. Or what you can do with Nebula, you can have full automated firmware updates. They can be scheduled, so you can do them out of hours, you can do them manually, however it likes, but all of that can be done from a central cloud platform. Makes it hugely efficient and saves vast amounts of money. Other features that are very useful, much more simplified site-to-site type connectivity can be set up. So if you've got Nebula security devices, which we'll come to in a minute, it's simply a matter of a few clicks to actually get those sites to talk to each other. The devices themselves are talking to the internet, so they're fully managed. And then when you need to link the sites together, you just go on the Nebula Control Center, select the devices, select the VPN technology, few clicks, and then all those sites are linked together. Far simpler than setting up managed site-to-site VPNs. One of the things that we want to try and get across to people is, depending on how you set the system up, you can support multiple tenants, so basically multiple organizations. So each organization can have multiple sites, and if you've got multiple organizations, you can be essentially a managed service provider, which is, if you like, one level higher within the tree. I'll try and make that a bit clearer in a minute. But it's worth bearing this in mind. If you are an IT company that wishes to support multiple customers with multiple sites, and you also wish to work with them and let them have access to their equipment, to their sites, you can do that within Nebula. So obviously, as we say here, it's multi-tier management, and you can see over on the right-hand side that you can have multiple organizations, and each organization can have multiple sites. One of the things that I probably need to get across is, as you can see over on the organization side of things, you've got the MSP portal at that level, the level at which you see all the organizations. When you initially set your first Nebula account up, and I'll come to this in a minute, it's important that you set it up with the right structure so that you can recover that account. So rather than use an individual user's email address, we would recommend you use a special group email address, maybe called nebula.admin@company name, and that could be forwarded to 2 or 3 people. So if you ever needed to recover that, then you can recover it quite simply. There we go. With multiple organizations and multiple sites and so on and so forth, one of the nice things about Nebula is that you can have a look at an organization's health status as well as individual sites. So you can see that perhaps there is an issue across your organization in terms of maybe a VPN is down, or you've got access points that have got particular issues, or a particular user issue, or whatever. But the single pane of glass management at the organization level can really give you a quick view as to what's going on, where the data is being used. Do you need higher speed links put in? Help you with management and justification of your resources. All of these kind of facilities become available to you, and analysis becomes available to you with this kind of centralized management. We have a fairly straightforward summary site-wide network management status platform. You can see that you choose your organization, you then choose your site, and then you can see site-wide the access points and how many clients are connected. You can see the switches and how much power consumption there is, and then you can see the security gateway, how much throughput there is, so on and so forth. And we have some other simple graphs which show you where that traffic is going, what applications are being used, top usage by clients, and you can drill down on all these things, which will become clear a little bit later on. But it's a really nice, straightforward panel of glass management that you can get your head around what's going on in your network. And this is just emphasizing that the basic Nebula platform is free, and it will always be free. What we charge for is an uplifted professional license for certain features that you might find beneficial, and we'll be coming to that in a minute. Obviously, the Nebula management is one aspect of it within the cloud, but obviously Xysel Nebula Hardware networking devices is also part of the platform. So one of the things we need to get across is that it consists of network security gateways, the NSG product family, that's the security devices. So if you're used to the USG, you could think of the NSG as being the Nebula version of that. Switches, NSW, access points, NAP. And some of the terminology around pure Nebula products, Nebula Flex and Nebula Flex Pro, that's coming up in a minute so that we can clarify that for people. So as I've just mentioned, there are pure Nebula products, there are Nebula Flex products, and there are Nebula Flex Pro. And we're just trying to make this a little bit clearer, because sometimes this is an area of confusion for people. So the Nebula Flex first. Nebula Flex devices are dual devices that can be used in standalone mode, or they can be used in Nebula mode. Excuse me. We're not mandating which way you use them. It's entirely up to you. If perhaps you're not quite ready to start down the Nebula path at the moment, you can just use the devices in standalone mode. And when you're ready, you can change them over to be Nebula managed and off you go. Or if you happen to use Nebula at the beginning, but you want to move them to another site that isn't a Nebula site, you can revert back to standalone mode. As I said, we're not forcing you to do anything. It's your choice. All of the devices come with a lifetime warranty as usual within Zeisel. Now, over to the Nebula Flex Pro devices. These are what we call triple mode devices. So they are Nebula manageable, they are standalone manageable, but they are also manageable by a controller, an on-premise controller, if that's required. Once again, they can be migrated between each mode of operation. It's entirely up to you. They come with quite sophisticated technologies with smart antenna and some new features that have come out recently, which we're just coming to in a minute, Wi-Fi health, which people are finding really good. And they are maybe designed slightly more for the higher density, more sophisticated environments. They're all centrally managed by Nebula. They do come bundled with a professional license, which we'll come to, the professional license features, which we'll come to in a minute. And just like the Nebula Flex, the Nebula Pure devices, they can all be upgraded to a lifetime professional license if required. With Nebula Flex Pro licensing, we have additional support for partners. So there's an expedited support channel available via it. Once again, the hardware includes a lifetime warranty. So this is just a slide to help people actually get started if they want to. If you search for the Zeisel Nebula Portal login, that'll take you to the Portal login account. If you haven't got an account, you just register. Register for an account. Make sure that any devices that you currently have, which you want to migrate into the Nebula environment, has got the latest firmware on it. Register the device, as I mentioned earlier on, so use the MAC address and the serial number, or install the app and use the QR code to register it. Register it via your account, and then you'll find once the devices are connected to the internet or connected to an internet subnet, you'll find that devices appear within the portal and you can get on and manage the devices. If you have put a device into management within Nebula Management and you want to undo it, all you do is go onto the Nebula Control Center, unregister the device will reset itself, and the next time it boots up, it will be in the standalone mode. As I said, you've got full flexibility. Some people perhaps don't realize that some of the devices that they've already got, particularly say GS1920 V2 switches that perhaps you've used in standalone mode, if you upgrade them to the latest firmware, you can find that you can actually use them as Nebula devices. That also applies to some access points as well, which there's a list coming up in a minute. So if you actually wanted to try out Nebula, you can, and you've got some GS1920 V2s, if you've got certain access points around, you can upgrade them, register for a Nebula account, register the devices, bring the system up, and you can play and work out what you want to do with them. So up to now, we've really sort of gone over the free offerings. Obviously, we'd like you to consider the professional pack features and what they offer. So we're going to go over now the professional pack and also what we call the security pack, which is the security pack is specific to the NHD devices. I wouldn't worry too much about maybe taking notes from that, because at the end of the presentation, I've got some handouts which include professional licensing features and also professional licensing features and where they're used. So we'll talk over them now, but they are at the end of the presentation in the handouts. One of the things that's very useful is, as with any sort of modern cloud-based platform, it's under active development. And roughly speaking, every sort of 4 to 6 months, new features come out. This is a new professional pack feature that came out late June, early July, and this is basically wireless health. So we are using certain low-level statistics that various access points in this slide are able to support, and that means we can work out a client's Wi-Fi connection's health quality. So we plot a graph, and you can view that graph within the Nebula Control Center and see what the wireless health is like of your network. So if you have got customers reporting issues, you can go and have a look at this wireless health graph and potentially see what's going on. Very useful. And it's the kind of added value that we'd like to point out that the platform offers, and there'll be more of these features coming up over time. Another very useful area with the professional license is, instead of having 7 days of log data and statistics and so on and so forth, which is what the free license provide, the professional license provides for 365 days of data. So obviously with that, you can do sophisticated statistics on devices, on clients, on events, and then that means you can generate custom reports. These reports can be automatically scheduled and emailed out to your customers with your customized logos, so that you can provide a level of feedback to your customers very proactively. So you can have a look at the amount of throughput, the amount of websites that's being accessed, all the kind of useful customer relationship type features that you would like to offer. The system provides it. So customized reports, customized scheduling, really high value solutions. You can export all that data to CSV or extensible markup language files. There's some other nice features which, if you're in the sort of support department, that sort of thing, you can automatically go onto the Nebula Control Center and you can have a look at the network topology, which is really useful for if you've got to pick up a fault or you've got to pick up an issue, you can look at how the network's set up nice and easily with a network diagram. And the other thing is you can see the automatic VPN topology graphs as well. Makes life much easier if you're in support. Another useful thing for the Pro Pack, obviously bandwidth usage and bandwidth consumption is a cost. So what we offer is quite a granular bandwidth control facility with the professional licensing. So on switches, you can control the port bandwidth on switches, on uplinks, on downlinks, and at a user level as well from the Wi-Fi connectivity point of view, as long as you've got the security gateway. So this is a very popular feature and a very valid professional pack feature everyone goes for. Another area within hospitality which we've had a lot of interest in is IP multicast and proper support of that from an IPTV point of view. So one of the things that we now offer is full support of IP multicast. Also from an analysis point of view of understanding what channels, so what TV channels people are watching, and you can automatically, by using machine learning, build up patterns of usage so that you can work out what channels perhaps are the most important. You can then advertise those channels internally, but this is really sort of taking off IPTV solutions, which normally would be very high value and high cost, can now be provided via Nebula. Within the Nebula Control Center, the switch stats on things, you can see over here that you can get reporting on IPTV channels. So basically the IP multicast group, which is equivalent to a TV channel, you just document which group is what, and then you can see who's watching what channel, what kind of devices they're watching it from, and you can keep a close eye on it all. Once again, another professional pack feature. One of the things we said right at the very beginning is any kind of modern cloud solution allows you to be far more efficient in your deployment of your solutions. So if you think about it, a lot of the configuration that you will do is the same. There might be small tweaks, but a lot of it is the same. So there's a concept of a template facility within Nebula Professional where you can create a set of site-wide configurations, and then you can copy that template out to a new site. So rather than have to go through all of a switch's configuration, all of an access point's configuration, and so on and so forth, you can have a template and roll it out with a few clicks. There's another feature called cloning. So if you've got a switch which you know is set up in a way that you wish to clone to another switch, you literally select the source and destination switches and you can clone it. Once again, hugely efficient, saves vast amounts of time. The other thing, of course, is things like backup and restore. So you can back up your switch configurations so that if you need to restore a later point, you can do so easily. Another thing that has been asked for is things like social media type sign-in. So one of the things that's just come onto the platform late June, early July is Facebook Wi-Fi. So now the captive portal supports Facebook Wi-Fi type connectivity. And with that, you can then authenticate against Facebook IDs if you wish to, or just the Facebook Wi-Fi page. There is actually, if you search for Facebook Wi-Fi, it will show you where Facebook is coming from, but this has been a popular feature that's been requested by a lot of people, and now that's on the platform as well. And it's these kind of features that will only just increase over time. So one of the tenets of the whole platform is the security pack, which is part of the Nebula Security Gateway. So we just need to go over a few features of that, basically. Obviously, if you're aware of the USG, excuse me, as I said, the NSG platform is the Nebula version of the security device. This supports antivirus scanning, content filtering and stripping out, application intelligence, so you know what applications people are accessing, and then you can control them. It has intrusion detection and prevention, and once again, one of the nice features of a platform is that you can have analytics. So all of the security type analysis that's going on at the individual device level can be fed up to the platform, and you can get central analysis done. So the first thing we're going to know is application awareness. This is an example of a particular hotel chain and a particular site, and you can see that the report shows you how much data is being used. You can see a time-based graph. You can see the applications that are being used, the type of network protocol, and the usage, and so on and so forth. And you can drill down on these. You can double-click on a particular application and see who's using it. So all of the kind of controls and analysis that you'd like to have at a site-wide or an organizational-wide view, you can have within Nebula, rather than have to go down to an individual device, not really know what's going on organizational, company-wide. You now have all these kind of facilities all available within the network management platform. The next thing that's always useful is where's your internet bandwidth going? So you can see reports on what sort of filtered websites are being accessed, what their categories are, what client network device actually made that request. Once again, you can drill down and find out what's going on. We don't snoop or have any access to an individual user's data. All we have is where they've gone to, so on and so forth, but there's no security issue associated with that. Obviously, it provides antivirus support, so it scans all content that comes through the Nebula Security Gateway, and you can see what viruses have arrived, where they arrived from, maybe how many of them there were. So if perhaps you've got a particular site or a particular issue within the organization, you can drill down and work out what's going on and perhaps tighten your access to certain websites and so on and so forth. But once again, all viewable within the portal, simple to drill down, the kind of control you require. So now we move on really to sort of breaking down some of the features of the platform, so you can hopefully see what we mean. So obviously on the left-hand side, you've got the Nebula free features, obviously the efficiency of deployment, updating, centralized device management, built-in captive portal but with a restricted user limit, and the other things you can read as well. When you move to the middle, the professional pack, what we're getting across here is all the more sophisticated features that are available with the professional pack. So you've got a year's worth of data, you've got reporting facilities, automatic visual topology, Wi-Fi, health, and integration with third parties like Facebook. A lot more organizational type of facilities as well. So you can have cloning, config changes can be applied across the board to sites and organizations easily. As I mentioned before, advanced VPN features for sort of almost single-click site-to-site connectivity. And there will be more of these kind of more sophisticated features that come out over as the platform is developed. The security pack, what we're trying to get across here is that there is professional licensing, which applies to the professional features within the Nebula Control Center environment. The security pack is essentially the subscription to all of the application control type signatures, antivirus scanning services, and content filtering and secure reporting. So the security pack is very specific to the NSG type device. And this is just a slide to hopefully explain the structure of the different licenses. So obviously at the bottom you've got the Nebula free license, if you like, want to think of it that way. If you're an NSG device, you've obviously got the Nebula free and the security pack. If you're perhaps a switch, you've got the Nebula free and the Nebula professional pack. If you are an NSG and you want the professional features, then obviously you need Nebula plus the professional pack plus the security pack. So we're just trying to build that picture up so you understand what each of the licenses is all about. And obviously no platform would be complete without Nebula Devices. So the next couple of slides, these are there's 4 NSG devices. As you can see, there's the 50, the 100, the 200, and the 300. And the choice is really in terms of the number of Ethernet interfaces, the number of WAN ports, and then you've obviously got the amount of stateful packet inspection bandwidth that the device can cope with. Obviously, the actual antivirus scanning rates and the intrusion detection rates is another important deciding factor on your choice of device. So you've got, for instance, under UTM throughput, you've got 50, 90, and 300 meg. So maybe, for instance, if you had a 100 meg circuit with 100 meg of bandwidth over it, you perhaps would like to consider the 100 or the 200 type devices because you're bordering, this is for a UTM throughput rating. Obviously for just stateful packet inspection, any of those devices would have been fine. So the 300 is the ultimate type of device. It's got 8 ports, and all of those ports can be used as you like, basically. But this is the top end device. All of the NSG devices come with a 1-year professional pack license and a 1-year security pack license. And it's worth making a note. There's a promotion coming up at the end, which I'll go over. There's a special promotion for the NSG 100 where it comes with 2 years worth of professional pack and 2 years worth of security pack for the price of 1 year. This table just shows you the type of devices, what their control center licensing is, that they require the Pro pack and that they require the NSS pack as well. Obviously, we mentioned earlier on that part of the solution is switching. Over on the right-hand side, you've got the NSW range of switches. So these are pure Nebula-only managed switches. They come with a 1-year professional pack license at the beginning. They come with 10 ports, 24 ports, 24 ports with PoE, and then 24 ports with PoE and 10 gig trunks. A really good 375 watt PoE budget. As you said before, it's consumption based. A lot of these features we just mentioned before, but obviously simple deployment, centralized Nebula management, virtual stacking, all of the kind of spanning tree and link access control protocol level 2 features. And then you've got the Nebula Flex type switches, which is the GS1920 V2 and its cousin with 10 gig circuits, the XGS 1930. Now these are Nebula Flex or smart managed devices. These you would need to buy a Nebula professional pack license if you wanted the professional pack features, or obviously, as we said earlier on, you can use them in free mode. But you can see what the features are there. That's the switching offering. And here we've got a table of the switches. So you've got the NSW switches, which are only Nebula manageable via the NCC, and they come with a Nebula Pro Pack license. The other Nebula Flex switches, as I said, the GS1920 and the XGS1930, they can be standalone or NCC managed, but their professional pack license is an optional add-on. It doesn't come with the switch. So on top of if you think about it, we've got the security, the NSG security devices. We've got the switching, so wired connectivity, PoE, and we've also got now the Wi-Fi connectivity, which is the Zeisel Nebula access point. So I think it's worth perhaps pointing out those 3 parts, the security gateways, switching, and access points, and the Nebula platform on top of it. If you think what kind of solution that is, that's a really powerful solution. Everything that you need is within those 3 parts and the platform itself. So the NAP type of access points are purely Nebula manageable access points, and they come with professional pack licensing out of the box. From left to right, you're going up in sort of capabilities of the access points, the number of spatial streams supported, the speed, the total speed that the device can provide, the type of antenna technology, and the total number of clients that the device can support. Obviously, the device on the right-hand side, the NAP 353, that's an external mountable device as well. So all pure Nebula access manageable access points can go from a basic 102 all the way up to a quite sophisticated external mountable device. This is the range of Nebula Flex access points. So once again, these devices can be standalone or managed via Nebula. Once again, the features going from left to right increase in terms of spatial streams, speed, and so on and so forth. The most sophisticated one in terms of being Wave 2 supported is the NWIe 1123 AC HD, the full spatial stream support, sophisticated antenna, and the Wave 2 support. There's a quite unique device on the right-hand side, which is the NWA 1302 AC. That's what we term as the hospitality type device. So this is very useful within hospitality hotels and so on and so forth. You've got one network port going into it and 3 coming out of it. So it's PoE powered. It also has PoE out, so you can go and connect it to a voice over IP phone within a hotel room, excuse me, or any other device within the hotel room that you wish to have network connectivity. Very smart, fits in front of a faceplate, so that's the ideal hospitality type access point. Then we've got some Nebula Flex professional devices. These devices really are more high-end. They've got, sorry, my phone. They've got higher number of client supports as well. As you can see here, 256 clients for connectivity. And there you got one of them, the 6303D is the top end, and that's got dynamic smart antenna support, so that can cope with just about anything in terms of interference. And then the other devices got an internal antenna solution, but they're all Wave 2, very high end, really good access points for maybe more enterprise environments or conference halls, restaurant facilities or bars where there's a large number of people connecting. And this is really a summary of the access points. I won't go into, excuse me, I won't go into any great detail because the slides are available afterwards. But you can see the type of device, so Nebula or Nebula Flex or Nebula Flex Pro, how it's managed. Does it also support things like smart mesh? And then the licensing requirements for professional pack and uplifted licenses. And also with modern features like Wi-Fi health, which access points have the actual underlying electronic support within the controller and the chipset to support Wi-Fi health. Then one of the things we mentioned earlier on is that the platform evolves. So in June, early July, we added some additional access points under the Nebula Flex Pro banner. So if you've got any of these access points, so for instance, the WAC 6103D-I down to the 6553D-E, if you've got any of these access points already with a free firmware upgrade, these devices will be Nebula Flex Pro capable. And one of the interesting things, and it's worth pointing out now, is that when you firmware upgrade them and connect them to Nebula, register them, you will get a 1-year Nebula Professional Pack license for free. That is only valid during 2019. So any of these devices here that are grouped separately under the new June 2019 box, they can all be upgraded and they can become Nebula Flex Pro access points with a professional license for free. So what I wanted to do is make sure people were aware of some of the handouts that are at the end. So there's a couple of PDFs which basically give you the Nebula Professional Pack feature list. And then there's also what we call the licensing table. So it's a description of the feature and where we feel it could be useful. So it could be useful to a managed service provider, or it could be useful to an IT company, but those handouts are at the end. The other thing that I pointed out in the middle, but there's this promotion at the moment. So there's an NSG 100 bundle valid during August, which basically gives you an NSG 100 device with 2 years worth of professional licensing and 2 years worth of the security pack license. So, and there we are, we come to the end. If there's any questions that you would like to ask, feel free, either myself or Danny can help. Can you hear me, Danny? Are you online still?
Yeah, I'm here. So Paul's had a few questions which I've answered while you've been speaking, but he's also just put another one through if you want to look at answering that one for him.
Where's that? Is that the one about splash resistant?
Yeah, he's talking about the WAC 6553DE and the 6552DS.
Right, bear with me a second. I can't scroll up there and see the full question actually. Oh.
So in regards to that, Paul, we do have some outdoor rated access points available on Nebula currently. So we can have a look at discussing this offline, and if you've got any sort of projects and things like that, I can sort of help you spec it up and things like that.
Yeah, I can see it now. So plan to introduce. Yes, I've also got what I can do. I can get a list of all of the external parts that work with our access points and so on. So if I did that for a customer in Ireland the other day, actually. So yeah, I'll get those lists together for Paul. Yes, and any other questions? Oh, internal splash resistant access points. We'll have a look. I'll have a chat with Danny afterwards, Paul, and get back to you on that one. I know there are some enclosures, aren't there, Danny?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. The only thing I can really think of is you get one of the internal access points, and then you look at putting it in an external enclosure inside.
Yeah. Yes, I think all we need to check up on is what the IP rating is. So we just need to check that aspect of it. But I know that Kevin quite often talks about that, Danny, about that casing. So
yeah, because if he's looking to install them in like the retail areas of the garden centre, then it's going to be quite open to the elements. So yeah, you'll be looking at getting the sort of outdoor enclosures, and then you can sort of fit it internally and externally to suit your needs and to enhance your coverage. So
yes, but it doesn't have to be that sort of full sort of IP67 rating or 66 or whatever.
No, that's correct.
Yeah, absolutely. I see where you're coming from there, Paul. Okay, that's fine. Cool. That's good. Any other ones? Oh, you've answered the previous ones from Paul. Yeah. Okay. Have we got Paul's email address? We will have, won't we, Danny?
Yeah. I made a note of
it. So, any other questions, anybody? Well, thank you very much for your time. We can leave it running if you like for a little while longer so that people can download handouts if they like. But any questions, please get in touch with myself or Danny. If you'd like individual one-to-one training or updates on webinars and so on, please get in touch with us. We're here to help. Only too pleased to. Yeah. If you're going on holiday next week, you lucky lot. Have a lovely holiday. And yeah, we're both, myself and Danny are. And thank you very much for your time. We know everyone's busy, so we do appreciate it. Thank you very much indeed. Cheers.
Thank you, everybody.